Hello everyone and welcome to another CTC software webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist at CTC, and today I'm going to talk about the Dimension Checker. We're going to go over a comprehensive introduction on this tool that comes out of the BIM Manager Suite. So let's first of all talk about the main topic here. Many of us have run into some issues here because we've been looking at a model or looking at a set of construction documents, and the dimensions that are in the model are reporting something, but the actual model space is not consistent with that value. And that's a huge problem. This can generate massive issues, especially when we get to construction. Being an ex-contractor myself, I know that what I build is what's documented on the sheets of paper that I'm using in the field. But what we're coordinating on in Revit is the model itself in most cases. Now, Revit does try to protect you from this, but the problem is users can still create these overrides that cause these massive conflicts. Trick is, it's not super easy to find those things. So we built the Dimension Checker to purposefully go through and detect these types of conflicts. Now, the goal here is not to help you fix the conflicts, because usually if you're finding them, it's not necessarily your responsibility to repair them. You're just discovering these things and going, hey, so-and-so who authored this stuff fixed this garbage, right? So you can generate reports out of this tool as well and hand those reports off to the responsible party so they can fix the problem. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about something just before this. I'm going to show you a couple of these things you can do. Not because I want you to do them, not because it's the best practice, but because you have to be aware of what it is you're looking for. And then I'm going to talk about accessing the Dimension Checker to discover these problems. We're going to go through the interface a bit, discover some problematic dimensions, and then in case you don't have this tool set yet, I'm going to talk about how you can get your hands on it, either in trial mode or, of course, if you want to buy it, go for that. Because I'm not big on death by PowerPoint, we're going to do all of this live inside of Revit. So I'm going to go into Revit directly, and we're going to kind of screw around with some dimensions first and see some of the things that we could potentially do that might be bad form. And then we're going to go and actually discover some of those problems. I'm going to jump here up to my third floor plan. And there aren't any dimensions here in this floor plan yet. I haven't done any real documentation. But let's say I go here and I'm gonna place some dimensions. Just, basic dimension command, dimension off of, I don't know, the face of the wall or something, and we'll go to stud face here, and we'll just kind of place that dimension string out there. Normally what I would want to do is have this be some reasonable number. 7 foot 8 3/8 isn't really what I want. Now, I didn't go to face of gypsum. That's probably where 7 foot 8's coming from. I went to the face of the stud. But even so, face of gyp to face of gyp, or face of stud to face of stud, this room still says 8 foot 3/4 inch. That might not be what I want. Maybe I want it to read a little differently. So if I click on this wall, of course, I normally, if it wasn't pinned in place, could grab that dimension value and change it to something else. I could actually physically move the wall. There might be some constraints on here, might be causing me some issues, so I might not be giving me the actual dimension values. This one here is, that one's not for whatever reason. Maybe I'm referencing something silly, I don't know. But if I was to take this dimension string and replace its value with something like, let's say 7 foot 8, right? 7 foot space dash space 8 inches. If I just click OK here, Revit is going to yell at me. And I would expect it to. Revit doesn't want me to be lying about dimensions. And so I have to find some way, if I don't feel like physically moving that wall 3/8 of an inch one way or the other, then I have to find a way to lie. And again, I'm not promoting you do this, I'm just saying this is what people will do. So the most common one that I see is people just putting a period there, and then they come back with a piece of text, right? Because this is easy. I'm just going to put out here, what was that, 7 foot 8? I don't remember what it was. 7 foot space dash space 8 inches, right? Put that out there. Oh, this is the wrong size text. Let's make this 3/4 inch text, or 3/32 inch text rather. And I'm just going to put this so that it sort of lines up with the other piece of dimension string. I see this happen all the time. On a printed sheet of paper, you will never know the difference. A contractor is going to build exactly what's there. Now, this is not actually a problem right now, not really. 7 foot 8 inches and 7 foot 8 3/8 inches are so close that who really cares? at this point. Like when I'm dealing with walls, nobody cares. But the reality is that if this compounds or this moves, let's say this wall and maybe these doors get nudged over a bit, nudge, 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 right? That text doesn't move, that dimension doesn't update. This is now grossly inaccurate. This is a huge problem. And the person might just make it look pretty, and they just, did the whole get it done down and dirty, and I'm done and I'm off and I'm printing and I'm having a good day. But this is now 100% wrong, and any values reported by the square footage of this room are going to be 100% wrong if calculated out manually, because this is wrong. It's just wrong. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Not good. So how do we detect things like this and other things? Like I've seen people say, oh, well, this is wrong too. This is supposed to be 8 foot, right? So let's make this 8 feet. I don't feel like moving the walls right now. I'm just going to come back and call this out. So 8 foot 0 inches dot, because I know I can't actually do just 8 foot 0 inches. So I'm going to do this. Well, again, being an ex-contractor, I'm going to tell you that dot doesn't mean jack to me. I don't care. I'm just going to build this 8 foot right there in the model. And what's going to happen is something's got to give here. Either the stair space has to shrink, something's going to give, and something's going to be wrong. And the framer in the field is going to get yelled at for it, or the mechanical person's going to just take it in the shorts because they built stuff a certain way, prefabbed it, and it's not going to fit. Bad news. Again, how do we discover these kinds of things? Well, this is where the DIM checker comes into play. Stuff like this happens all over the project. In some cases I care, in some cases I don't. But the DIM checker here up on the manager suite, so I happen to be on the CTC software tab of tools. I'm on the CTC BIM manager suite, the tools that are in blue, those that usually get delivered to a BIM manager, and I've got a DIM checker, a dimension checker tool right here. The dimension checker allows me to set a couple of rules. I'm looking for dimension values in my project. I don't care about those that are actually using the real value. I'm ignoring these. They don't matter to me. Now, if I did care about the actual value and where there's text fields above, below, left, or right, maybe I do care about that. But for right now, the reason why I'm personally using this in today's example, in this introduction, is to find dimensions that have been overridden. And so I'm finding values whose text has been replaced, whose value has been replaced with text of some sort. I'm not looking at all the text fields above, below, left, and right, just the basic text fields. And so I'm not matching all, I'm just looking for the main value. And I'm excluding things like typical and see whomever. I don't care about these. So I'm separating these by carriage returns inside of here. Have as many of these exclusions as you'd like. That's fine. I don't care about matching case exactly or matching exactly the phrases or all phrases. If it's got one of these things, I don't care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for this now and look through my entire project and see where there might be some issues. I would expect that I would have 2 issues in this view out here on this floor. I would expect that. Actually, sorry, do this here. Search. Why aren't you showing me stuff? There we go. Don't include text fields at all. That's probably the better choice because I don't want to include text fields at all. So if I search this here, I'm finding things all over my project. There's those 2 that I just generated, those 2 floor plans, level 3 floor plans. There's actually a string of 2 dimensions. Oddly enough, it's right there. This was a continuous string. It wasn't 2 separate pieces. If it is 2 separate pieces, it'll tell you single. But it tells you which spot within that string this is actually happening. In fact, it's 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. So both values on that string have been overridden. I can tell it's the same string because the element ID over here is the same as well. I can see what the original value is, and I can see what the overridden value is. In one case, there's a dot override, which means I'd be looking for text in that view probably. In the other case, there's a dimension string with a dot override. And I'm seeing some other ones up here that look like they should not be possible, but there's some other dirty tricks you can pull that I'm not going to demonstrate because I don't want you using them. But there are other things people could potentially do that might override a dimension and make it look like a dimension string. And there's some pretty, gross errors out here. This one here is off by nearly 7 inches, right? That's a big deal in certain cases. The trick is, where are these? Because yeah, it's giving me an element ID, but I don't want to have to go in here and do like the manage and select by ID command and type in that value over and over again. That's not super convenient. So I want to be able to find this directly in exactly the view where it's placed. right? I know about these two because I just generated them myself. But what about these other ones in these different floor plans? Like this guy right here. Like, where is this? It's off by, almost an inch plus, right? This one's off by an eighth inch. Who cares? Though it matters because if somebody changes the dimension, that matters. This one here, again, off by a lot. Where? So I'm going to go ahead and show it to myself. Show it to me. What this will do, Dimension Checker will find that view because dimensions are view specific. It will find that floor plan view. It will open it up. It will find this string of dimensions and it will zoom to it. Now, if it's a long string, and there's a lot of things on screen there, I might want to actually select that string. So I can actually click select here and it'll select it on the screen. Now, it doesn't highlight the exact value in this string. It just tells me it's the fourth segment. I don't know exactly where that is, but it says 10 feet. It goes, let's see here, 6 foot and then 10 foot. It's actually 10 foot 6, 10 foot, 6 foot, 10 foot. So if I'm looking through this string and I zoom in a little bit, 10 foot 6, 10 foot, 6 foot. So this exact one right here, its real value should be 9 foot 3 1/4. And so now, I don't necessarily need to be the person responsible for fixing this. My goal was to find it. I've located it. I can see that they did some kind of manual override of some variation out there. In fact, if I wanted to click on this, I could right now just go back and say, hey, use the actual value. Show me what that looks like. Oh, hey, look, that one's fixed now, right? Like, I fixed just the one. Fantastic. But again, if it's not my responsibility, if I'm an MEP engineer and I need to talk with the structural engineer or the architect about this, it's their responsibility to fix it. I might want to just at least get this report so I can save this report out to an Excel spreadsheet. They get all the exact same information. And technically, if they've got the BIM Manager Suite, they have access to this tool as well, and they should be policing themselves. But if I get a model and I wanted to just double check and see what people are dimensioning out there and, make sure that what they're saying the physical values are is what the values are, that's my goal. So I can use this tool as a discovery tool to very quickly run through the model, find dimensions that are problematic, get a report if I need to, find the dimensions, isolate them in a view. Like, again, I can go click show here. This will actually go to the first floor plan, 01 floor plan right there. And I can select that dimension string again. So it'll highlight that in my view wherever it went. Where'd it go? This guy, select it. Where are you? There it is. So there's my dimension string right there with some problems. Again, there's some overrides there. That could be problematic. Will be problematic. So yeah, discovering these things. This one here is off by almost 16 inches. That's kind of crazy. That's a lot different. So again, I might want to know where that is and handle that accordingly. All right, that is the dimension checker. It's not a very complicated tool. Up here in the CTC software tab, again, the BIM Manager Suite, DIM Checker, not a complicated tool. It helps you find things where values have been replaced with text. It helps you exclude certain things you don't care about, but you can isolate those, find them in the model, and then make an action plan yourself or hand it off to the proper team members or consultants to have them take care of a problem that maybe they created. If you're going to be trusting a model and coordinating against a model, you got to know the dimensions are right and what's going to get built is right. So you can't document one way and model another. That's kind of key. So how do you get your hands on this tool if you don't have it already? If you don't have the Manager Suite on your ribbon on the CTC software tab, how do you get it? Well, if you go up to the internet right now to Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever, and you go to ctcsoftware.com right here, you can go to Products and to Manager Suite. And from the BIM Manager Suite 2019, if you don't own the tool set, you can certainly try it free for 14 days and give this a shot on your projects. Open up some models that came in from outside sources. If you're a contractor, try this out. If you're an architect or a mechanical engineer, structural engineer, whatever, try this out. Try this out for 14 days. And if you like it, certainly you can come here and you can actually purchase it. Or talk with one of your available account reps. They can help you out as well. If you're working with ATG in the United States, they can get you access to this tool set. If you're working with, say, SolidCAD in Canada, they can help you with this. If you're in some other country internationally, give us a call directly or write us directly. We're here to help make sure you're getting access to the tools you need. I want to thank you for the time you've given us. We always do appreciate when you show up for a presentation given by CTC Software. about our tools. We all want to make sure that you're working as efficiently as possible. And so these presentations help us just kind of show off another way that you guys can work a slightly more efficient way. In this case, in today's discussion, finding the dimensions that are potentially problematic in a project.